Welcome to our journey towards the birthplace of engineer Soekarno, the father of the proclaimer and the first president in Indonesia. Death we witness, the witness place of the hero's birth. Prepare yourself, we will go back to the past. Let's take a step and follow the journey.
In a corner of Pandian 4th Street, Surabaya stands a simple house that witnessed the birth of a great figure in the nation. Here, on June 6, 1901, Soekarno the Proclaimer and the first president of the Republic of Indonesia was born. Bung Karno's birthplace is a place where the determination to fight for love and dreams, making a small family able to overcome various obstacles in life, until giving birth to the Proclaimer of the Republic of Indonesia. This museum is not just a building, but an entrance to understand the human side of Bung Karno, human child who was born from a simple family, grew up with prayers and mother's love, until finally devoting his life to the Indonesian nation. This is the small family of Raden Soekarno, Sosro Diharjo, the parents of Ir Soekarno, Proclaimer, and the first president of the Republic of Indonesia. On the upper left side, there is Ida Ayu Noyomanrai, Soekarno's mother who comes from Bali, a gentle figure who descends the blood of Balinese nobility. On the upper right side is Raden Soekarno Sosro Diharjo, Soekarno's father, a teacher who is known to be disciplined and authoritative. At the bottom left, we see Raden Soekarmiwati, Soekarno's sister, who also grew up in an environment full of educational values. And at the bottom right here, Soekarno himself, who later became known as the nation's great leader, independence fighter, and the first president of Indonesia. This small family became the foundation for Soekarno's growth, a visionary figure who devoted his life to Indonesia's independence. The journey began in 1891 in Buleleng, Bali, when Raden Soekarno Soro Diharjo began teaching at Tweed class, Sholan Singaraja after completing his education at Queek School, 4 Inland Onderwijzers, and graduating from the teacher's school in Probolinggo. He was assigned to teach at Inland School Bowling. In year 1897, Soekarno lived in a cottage near Paket Agong, Singaraja. That's where he met Ida Ayu Noyomanrai, a Balinese woman. This meeting became the beginning of a love story that attracted attention because of the considerable differences in religion and culture at that time. However, the relationship between the two developed strongly and inspired many stories and literature. The relationship continued to the marriage stage. Soekarno and Ida Ayu Noyomanrai Shrimbin got married, and their love story is known as a symbol of courage beyond cultural and religious differences, surviving until the end of their lives. From this marriage, their first child was born, Soekarmini, on March 1898 in Singaraja, Bali. The period between 1891 to 1897 in Buleleng became an important period in Soekarno's life journey, both as an educator and in building the foundation of his small family, which would later give birth to a great figure of the Indonesian nation. After the early days of the family in Bali, the R family, Soekarno Soro Diharjo, moved to Surabaya in 1898. In this city, Soekarno became a teacher at Inland School, and the family settled in the Penilei area, one of the oldest areas in Surabaya that has existed since the 13th century. This area becomes an important place for the small family in building a new life in Java. On June 6, 1901, Kusno Sosro Diharjo was born, who later became known as However, Because he often fell ill, his family then changed his name to Soekarno in 1905 in Tulung. After some time living in Tulungaga, Soekarno returned to Surabaya in 1916 to continue his education at Holland Lanchi School, his Kovan, and then accepted at Hagerberger School HBS, a prestigious Dutch-speaking high school during the colonial period. He studied this education until he graduated in 1921. The Surabaya period became an important period in shaping the character and intelligence of young Soekarno. He grew up in an environment rich in cultural and intellectual interaction, and began to show interest in science and community life. The Penalay and Pandian areas became the early witness of the journey of the figure who would later become the proclaimer and the first president of the Republic of Indonesia. These photos are traces of Bung Karno's closeness with his mother, Ida Ayu Nyomonrai. In every visit to Blitar, Soekarno always takes the time to kneel, pray, and ask for blessings. For him, everything he has as a leader actually comes from the prayers and love of a mother. The warm togetherness, laughter, to the solemn moment when bowing himself in front of his mother, illustrates how strong the inner bond is. Soekarno himself once said, "Everything I have right now actually comes from my mother." This is the portrait of Bung Karno's humanity, a great leader of the nation, who never forgets to string the love of Shrimpin's mother, the source of strength and sincerity that leads her along the path of struggle. Inside the museum, there is also an interactive room that unites movement with animation. When the bench is occupied, there will be an animation moving behind the TV screen. The animation depicts the life story of Soekarno from when he was a baby until he became the first president of Indonesia. That's the time journey we've traveled. We can see how the hero's life is, from childhood to adulthood. Maybe it's time for us to separate and return to the previous time, the real life. Here Soekarno will remain exposed, from now until later,